Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Magical Journey Podcast. I am your host, Daniel Ian Cahoon, and this is Friday Night Live, where you can catch us every Friday at 7:15 Central Time. Before we get started tonight, I just want to uh, give you guys a couple of little bits of information here that will help immensely with your journey. First of all, Magical Journey Podcast. magicaljourneypodcast.com. Sorry, I blinked for a moment. Definitely your one-stop shop for all things Magical Journey, including magical merch, which I don't have any on tonight. I'm actually wearing my work hat. But you know what? It is what it is, right? Tonight, we know that magical merch exists on the website. Also, for those of you who are interested in trying to support and boost this venture of mine, there is Magical Journey on KoFi, where there are membership tiers where you can join and get various levels of entertainment, for lack of a better term, that you can't get anywhere else. And you can also find out all the latest new stuff going on with podcast on KoFi. With that said, so I got to tell you guys, my guest tonight was with us on episode 10, way back at the beginning of this show. So it was a bit of a journey from there to now, but I am really excited about tonight and tonight's interview because my friend is definitely one of the people that you want to get to know if you want to know about paranormal investigation, about the unknown, and how to know the unknown. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me to the stage, Tanya. Hey. Hey, so you know what? My folks know a little about you from previous episode, but give us a little bit of information on you and what you do and what your journey is about.
Okay, so essentially, I'm a ghost hunter and I'm a paranormal investigator, but I have kind of a unique approach. I don't just go in and with the goal of attaining, documented evidence. I actually go in and I use spiritual communication and I actually speak to them. I learn their stories. And then at the very end, I cross them over, which sometimes doesn't make me a very popular person. Sometimes people want them to hang around because it's profitable, but that's what I do. So, and I just feel like, and I don't get paid for this. This is just, I feel like this is the right thing to do, so.
Right. And when you talk about, okay, so let's discuss the passing them over part for a moment, because I think a lot of people may be a little bit confused when they first hear that.
Right.
What exactly does it mean to cross or pass somebody over?
Okay, so you've heard the term, when it's a cliche that, when somebody dies, oh, go towards the light, go towards the light. And what they're referring to is the portal that takes you into the other dimension, the spirit world. But sometimes that portal is missed because it's only open for a short amount of time. It doesn't just hang open. We don't have portals just hanging open everywhere. So, and so what happens is that energy gets trapped here. And it's not a good thing for anybody, and not just the entities involved, but anybody, because it's trapped energy. A lot of times it's energy that's confused or scared, lonely, a lot of negative energy. So it helps to kind of get that energy off the earthly plane and back to where it is supposed to be,
100%. It definitely does. And you're right. It can be very, um, it's anywhere from very confused to almost just, I hate to say the word frightful, but yeah, when you come
or
in
just
contact.
feeling abandoned,
Yeah.
like, wait a minute. I thought I was supposed to, you know, most people are like, thought I was supposed to go to heaven. What is this?
Yeah. But
So,
all of a sudden you are not where you thought you would be, or you are not who you thought you would be.
right,
Um,
exactly.
and I think that's one of the things that so many people get confused about whenever you talk about the
Hmm.
process of passing forward, of passing on. I
Right.
think I think a lot of people get this view that this is the process and this is how it's supposed to work, and it's going to go seamlessly that way.
Right.
And then it happens, and you're like, oops.
Right. Right. And I've run into earthbounds that they stayed behind for a reason.
Mhm.
There was a man, somebody I actually knew in life, which was weird. I remember from my childhood, but I found him, um, and he had stayed behind because him and his wife made a pact that when they died, they were going to stay put and wait for the other one, and they both ended up kind of stuck here. So
Never a good idea.
yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, it never does it end very well.
Because
So,
once you cross over, you can come back. You can go back and forth.
right, it's not like, a one-way door. It's definitely revolving.
Right.
So let's talk for a minute about, because one of the things that I experienced recently, and I got the opportunity to uh, have just a really rare experience, was going to a place in Franklin, Kentucky, which is called
Hmm.
the Old Stone Jail. And
Uh-huh.
there, that facility, that building has been in use since Civil War times. Before,
Wow.
yeah. So there's graffiti on the wall from the Civil War.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's a lot of energy there in that area, and I just remember
Wow.
at one point just feeling a lot of heaviness, and you know, my friends that were there were like, "Tell me what's going on. What are you feeling?" And I was trying to articulate this, and I just could not get it out. And afterwards, I told them, I said, "You got to understand, it's like whatever is here is very heavy energy."
Right.
And they understood completely. They got it. They kind of connected to it too. But this is one of the things a lot of people don't understand is
Mhm.
that you when you leave here, whatever state of mind you're in, whatever state
Mhm.
of spirit you're in,
Absolutely.
that's the energy that kind of lingers afterwards.
Right.
And so, what was so, Tanya, this is what was so amazing to me. It was like, and it was kind of weird too. Like downstairs, there was this area that had all this like um, war memorabilia and uniforms and photographs of men who had served and so forth.
Mhm.
And right there at the entranceway to this room was a heavy smell of men's cologne, a
Oh,
very heavy smell of men's cologne. And
mhm.
everywhere you went in that room, it followed you. And I was just like, wow, this is really crazy. I don't know who this is, but
Right.
they're really persistent. So tell us. a little bit about your experience with that kind of energy, that kind of I want to say almost alpha energy that is just like, I'm here, you're gonna know it.
So I actually ran into, okay, so anything that you put mental energy towards, you're going to attract it, right? Okay. And this is going to sound really nuts. Here we go. I can't lie. So there was a time uh, my boyfriend is, he's very much into like true crime stuff.
Mm.
And he was watching a documentary and I was kind of listening to it and I was thinking about it. And next thing you know, I end up attracting the entity that documentary was about. And you talk about powerful, powerful. When it came into the room, my whole body just lit up. It was absolutely insane. And it was somebody who hadn't crossed, and it was somebody who had killed a lot of people. And anyway, he had this huge energy. And at first he came in and he was very kind of aggressive, and and I started talking to him, and the reason he didn't cross over is because when he died, he saw the portal, but he refused it because he thought for sure that if he went through that doorway, that he was going to go to hell. So he was like, no, I'm just going to stay here. But yeah, it wasn't anybody that was like super well known, but it was a serial, unaliver.
Yeah,
So,
that's the kind of energy that you definitely want to avoid if you can. Um, so when you go to these places, I mean, obviously, like you said, there are some people they're just like the claws come out, the fangs start showing because
right,
they look at you and they're like, oh, this is trouble walking through the door.
right.
So how do you address that? Because that's kind of a heavy energy.
Well, here's the thing, and this is what makes it different, my experience different than most, is usually when they see somebody like me walking through the door, they're like, ooh, intruder, intruder, somebody who wants to, not always. I mean, sometimes they want to be seen, sometimes they're, performers. But a lot of times they'll be like an intruder, like, oh, you're trouble. But once I talk to them and I tell them why I'm there and that, hey, I can help you. I can help you. Don't you want to go home? Don't you want to see your past loved ones or, what have you? And after that, they're usually pretty syrupy sweet with me. All that aggression kind of gets quelled. And they're like, oh, this person has something I need, and a lot of times when you run into difficult personalities, you end up with a lot of like narcissistic characteristics, you know what I mean? And one of the hallmarks of narcissism is, if they have a use for somebody, they're going to treat them very, very well, So yeah, it usually, once they find out why I'm there, usually they're very, very nice to me and very welcoming. So,
That's good to hear because I know, there's some people that when you walk up on their property and, they're there to make a buck, and they see people like you as the person taking the money out of my pocket. And unfortunately, the paranormal, I mean, you and I know this probably better than a lot of people do. The paranormal community is just rancidly full of people who are out to make a buck. And that is,
absolutely.
And that is what the community lives for in some places.
Right.
Because I mean, who doesn't want a free meal? if you
Right.
think about it. So if you if you get to the point where you're kind of being viewed as the enemy,
Hmm.
then how do you go about, I guess, what's your breakthrough with that? Because that's a tough place to be at.
Yeah. Are you talking about with the living?
Yes,
Okay, with the
yes,
living.
yeah.
So I am not welcome at places. I am not welcome at places that use entities as, furniture or amenities, or they don't want me around. I've actually sat in parking lots before and done my thing. Um, and then I learned how to, this is funny, I learned how to kind of do it remotely, where I like call them in. And when I figured that out, that was just, it just took off after that, because I didn't actually have to travel to the places, to do what I do. And I try to leave the famous places alone as much as possible. But if I go, I'm sorry, if I go on a website and the very first page is "come see our ghosts," and da 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 da, I'm like, okay, I, you're next. I'm sorry. And like I said, I'm not a very popular person with some places. So, in fact, some places make you sign a waiver saying that you won't try to help them, or, you know, try to clean the energy, or the Stanley Hotel. Actually, that's because I didn't tell them why I was there.
Ouch.
Yeah, I didn't tell him why I was there. I ended up, that was one place I ended up doing it from the parking lot.
I mean, yeah, because how do you go about? It's like, hi, I'm Tanya. I'm here to clean house. Um,
Right.
I mean, there's just no easy or fun way
Mhm.
to address the reason why you're there. And places like the Stanley, which is a very well known,
Very famous.
very famous
When
place.
when I came back home from that trip, I was talking to a fellow ghost hunter who was in the area, and I just happened to disclose to that person what I did. He was not happy with me at all, and that was kind of the first time I ran into that, and I realized, oh, I guess I need to not talk about this too much. But here's the thing, and it's a phenomenon that happens with legendary places, with famous places. Um, just because you clean out what's there, okay? You have people who are dying, they don't cross over, and they're like, "Ooh, my family and I used to go to the Stanley every summer. I'm gonna go check it out." So it doesn't stay empty for long, I promise you.
And I think that's sort of the ideology, that false impression people have, that, oh, when you go and empty something out, it's always empty. It's never going to
Right,
be a thing again.
right.
Um, Brian C says it sounds like quantum entanglement.
And
You,
yeah, and the other thing too is you have to make a distinction between the actual entities and the residual hauntings, or the energy imprints, because they're two different things. The energy imprints are going to be there. There's nothing I can do about that, really, or I don't have the knowledge of how to take care of those. But the entities themselves, and you always hear stuff like that with haunted places. It's like, oh, on certain nights the lady in white will descend the stairs and da 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 da. And do you really think there's a ghost that's waiting and going, oh, it's 8 o'clock, time to go down the stairs? No, that's a residual haunting. That's an energy imprint. you know and it's interesting too, because energy imprints, the energy will imprint way stronger in moments where there is either vast repetition, like that lady probably went down those stairs every single day for 50 years in that same house, or high emotion. If there's terror, if there's trauma, if there's, intense fear, then that energy is going to get imprinted stronger onto the environment.
Exactly. That's one of the things that is hard for some people to understand too. Is like, when you talk about imprinting, I think a lot of people kind of, they can't really wrap their head around what this means. They don't get that energy is kind of like film in a sense, and
Yeah.
you, as your actions are developing onto that energy, and your experience, for instance, one of the most common reactions in theaters is the sound of the audience laughing, and it just
Yes.
lingers. It's recorded in the air there. And
Mhm.
so people audibly hear this laughter, a lot of people laughing at once at something. And it's hard for them to, I mean, I can't imagine walking into a theater, minding my own business, checking it out. Oh, that's pretty. And all of a sudden hearing this multitude of people laughing and
Right.
me going, wait a minute, this ain't right here.
Right.
So when you, how do you explain to people who are trying to, I guess, come to terms with all of this? How do you explain to them, first of all, that what they're experiencing is actually very normal? And also, how do you explain to them that not only is it normal, but it is very okay to accept it?
So are you talking about like when they experience paranormal things? So like if somebody sees something or they hear something, a lot of times I'll explain to them that we're kind of like radios, and entities are kind of like radio stations, okay, radio waves, and you have to be kind of vibrating at the right frequency in order to perceive them. Some of us vibrate at a rate that you're more likely to see them. Okay. And then some of us vibrate at a different frequency and it's more rare, But yeah, we're kind of like, I explain it like that, and that kind of makes them feel better. I explain it also that they're just people. That's it. They're just people. And really, honestly, they're less, it's less dangerous to run across a ghost than it is to run across Joe Blow on the street. Because Joe Blow on the street, they can pull a knife on you or something, So the entities that I've spoken to, most of them, I'd say 90% of them are just super nice and super respectful. And there's only been just a small percentage that are kind of, I call them cranky. They're cranky, And so, and a lot of them too, just from being stuck, they've kind of been humbled, like, ooh, you know. So, but usually, I mean, once I explain that, usually people are pretty, they're good with it,
Earl Ross has a really, really good
Oh,
testimony of their experience with you.
oh yeah, I've done spiritual communication for him, family members. So
Wow.
yeah,
It sounds like a
thank
very,
you.
very positive experience happened there.
Yeah.
So let's back up for a second, though, because not all experiences are positive or fun.
Yes.
And and there are some things, in our recent paranormal news history that
Mm-hmm.
have, come across the wire that are very alarming to some people. Some of the things that we're seeing and hearing,
Mm-hmm.
from just bad choices
Mm-hmm.
has, a large group of people very alarmed. And, people are asking, hey, at what point do we stop using the term for entertainment purposes only? And so let's talk about that for a minute. How do you, first of all, how do you view um, some of the current experiences going on in the paranormal community with people engaging inappropriately, if you will, with um, objects, energy that's not necessarily meant to be helpful to them, if that makes sense.
Um, I that to me that question could cover two or three different topics. um, are you talking about uh like binding stuff, like
Right, right. So
haunted dolls kind of thing?
haunted dolls, haunted houses, experiences where the hitchhiker effect is in full force.
Hmm.
Something is latched on to an object or a place or
Oh, oh,
people, and boom, here we are, and you are forced to experience
hmm,
some very unpleasant things as a
hmm,
result. Case in point, the Annabelle doll experience.
hmm. So, okay. Um, so there's two different scenarios. There may be more, but there's two that just come off the top of my head. Number one, you have people that will do energy work to actually artificially bind a spirit or a ghost to an object like a doll. And they actually sell haunted dolls. I can't remember who sells them. I know between like eBay and Etsy, I can't remember which one, but one of them allows you to sell haunted dolls, and the other one was like, nope, no, we're not going to be doing that. I think it's eBay that doesn't let you do that. But anyway, for a long time there, what I would do in my bid to do the right thing is I would go on those that website and I would look up haunted dolls for sale, and I would do energy work myself and remotely unbind them and then cross them over. And that also makes me not a very popular person in some
Right, right.
ways.
I mean,
Um,
yeah. How do you go about engaging with people like Matt Rife and people like that who intentionally you know purchase property and objects for the sake of entertainment? I mean that.
so okay, so and I think some of this has to do with religious beliefs.
Mhm.
Um, I I think I don't know because I'm not really in that mindset that those people are in. But a lot of people, they they're into that, and they're like they don't see anything wrong with it. And I think what they don't understand is that every ghost was at one time somebody's someone. They
Interesting.
are people, and if you are not willing to say it to a person, a living person, do it to a living person, then you shouldn't be doing it to a ghost either because they're people. They're just people that don't have their meat suits anymore. That's it. So that's my stance. And I mean, yeah, I've kind of come under a lot of criticism for what I do with regards to haunted dolls, but sorry, that to me that's the ethical thing to do But there's also another scenario too. And I've heard of this before, like, for example, let's say a child dies and they don't cross and they're here and they latch on to their favorite toy. They're not being artificially bound to it. They're just following it wherever it goes. And if somebody at some point destroys that toy or mistreats it, or let's say it's a dollhouse and they decide to paint it or something, that child is going to be pretty ticked off, you know? And I've heard stories about that too, where somebody will, get freaked out and they'll destroy an object that there's an entity following it around, and then bad shit starts happening, to them. Really, the only thing you have to do is cross them over. I mean, that to me, that's like the cure all for everything. Is you talk to them, you explain it, you say, hey, you want to go home, and you cross them over, and boom, your object is no longer haunted. Now, I know, here we go with religious beliefs, though. We have a lot of people that think that the things that possess those objects are demons. And I don't really want to get into religious topics. So we'll just leave it at that.
Right. And I agree with you with that. Is like, okay, there's so much that you can cover with that. And I'm not a real big fan of getting into the whole debate over belief systems and so forth, because there's so many of them.
Yes.
But the bottom line is if it feels like something you shouldn't do, you shouldn't do it.
Right.
I mean, how simple is that? It's a literal self-answering question.
Right.
Yes or no. Should you do it? Probably not.
Right.
So let's talk about this for a minute, because for those of you who are just joining us, if anything that we're talking about right now resonates with you, how you feel about haunted objects, haunted places, those lovely hitchhiker experiences, leave me a comment below to let me know what your thoughts are on those, because a lot of people have a lot of really interesting opinions on those.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, there are some things. So let's go back to Annabelle for a minute and the child energy thing, because with some things, like you said, children will naturally be drawn to them because it was their thing in life. So they will follow the object to no end.
It brings them comfort. It's familiar.
Right. So tell me your thoughts then, based on that, with Annabelle. Yeah, I know that look.
Really? So I became interested in Annabelle because I kept hearing that it was a demonically possessed doll, is what I heard. And so I checked into it, and I started communicating and asking questions and And what I found was that it was a little girl, ghost, earthbound, that was, and I really don't know if she was bound to it or if she was just following it. I didn't actually make that distinction, but it was a little 7-year-old girl, and her name was Rose. And when I found that out, I called her in, I drew her in and talked to her, and then crossed her over. However, here we go. We have the legendary thing going on again, where, it creates kind of a political vacuum. You get rid of one and it's like, oh, I want to go be associated with that person, that place or thing, interesting story. Jumping off from that, the San Antonio ghost tracks, if anybody has heard of those. Okay. So that story was complete bunk, and everybody knows it. It was proven that it was just total. It was an incident that happened up in Ohio. I think it was, but because it appeared in the newspaper in San Antonio, everybody thought it happened in San Antonio. And so it became this huge legend, right? Here's the thing though. I went down because I wanted to experiment. And I went down and I checked it out. And do you know I found 8 entities down there? Not because they were kids on that bus, but because here we go, the legendary status. People die, they're like, oh yeah, the ghost tracks. We used to go there for Halloween. And they go down there and they want to be a part of it, And so it attracts, even though, the story itself was bunk. But going back to child ghosts are very unique. They're very unique in that before you cross over, you are still very much who you were in life. Okay. You have not crossed over. You have not been reinitiated into your core self, your higher self. Okay. So you're still very much who you were in life. Right. And if somebody dies as a child, they're still a child. They didn't live long enough to have that experience to be like, oh, I don't hurt people, or I don't, they don't have that maturity level, that emotional intelligence, to be like, oh, if somebody tells me no, or somebody does something I don't like, I really shouldn't get them. You know what I mean? I should, so they didn't live long enough to have that experience. So child ghosts are the ones that are more likely to make themselves known, knock on the walls, try to scare people because they think it's funny, haha, made you jump, And so, so a lot of times when people experience these kind of more intense hauntings where, it's deemed like a demonic haunting, it's usually a child. That's been my experience,
So in the case of Annabelle, which has been just a hot topic for a while now.
Right. Very famous.
Very famous.
Yeah. So I crossed over the spirit that was associated with that doll, but that doesn't mean that there's not another one now in its place, following it around, saying, oh, I want to, ooh, Annabelle, I really loved that story when I was alive, so I want to be associated with that. That's that legendary phenomenon that happens.
Right. And do you feel like, I really want to be careful how I phrase some of the stuff. So with Annabelle, there was a whole experience with Dan Rivera, which was very unfortunate.
Right.
We had a lot of discussions in the community on, the what ifs and all of that associated with Annabelle and Dan. There's so very much that had been said, and the community is kind of almost torn apart in a sense about their thoughts on Annabelle, about Dan's passing, how those things are connected together. So from your standpoint, though, from your understanding, how do we not only like connect to this story in a way that's going to be not harmful, but how do we begin to process the truth behind Annabelle and what may or may not have happened in a
Right.
way that's going to not only be unharmful but productive.
Now, now remind me what happened to that gentleman, because I heard about there was somebody that she unalived.
Right, right. So
This is that the
Dan
same
Riviera,
new one, or is that the same guy?
no, Dan Riviera was actually Annabelle's handler.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
he was the one going on taking Annabelle out on tour,
Mhm,
and uh, they did the weekend in Gettysburg. Uh,
mhm,
Sunday rolled around, and they had a very successful turnout. Uh,
mhm,
after the show, though, after they closed down the event,
mhm,
Dan was later found unalived in his room,
mhm.
and of course, a lot of people are blaming that on Annabelle and
Right.
saying that Annabelle was responsible for that, and really kind of pushing into pressing into the idea that um, kind of they get what they deserve in a sense. And yeah, it's just a lot of it's creating a lot of very hostile energy around
Yeah,
the event.
there's way too much punitive behavior in this world. So I'm so sorry. I heard about the first guy that died
Mhm.
as a result of Annabelle. I didn't hear about this one. What was the circumstances of his death? He was found. How did he die?
It, that's one of the questions we have right now because I don't think there's really been a cause of death put out publicly yet.
Mhm.
I've heard various things. I've heard it was drug related. I've heard a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's,
So
it's
until
been
we until we get like an autopsy report, there's really no sense in even trying to, you know,
right,
that honestly, like I said, once you clear something out, it just kind of creates a political vacuum. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was something else, you know, following it around because I mean it's famous,
right.
and with the kind of dark twisted history of Annabelle, it's probably attracted an entity that's a little dark and twisted. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but
I mean,
that's
there's a good chance, right?
yeah, yeah.
It's like any other costume that's going to be attracted to that which is attracted to it.
Right.
And one of the things that I find too involved when we talk about this case that it involves um, just the power of belief
Mhm.
is first of all there's the idea that Annabelle was not originally a a haunted object, that Annabelle, that energy was fed to Annabelle is
Mhm.
is part of the theory now.
Mhm.
Um, is it what's the term they use? Egregore? Does that sound?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And and then of course you have the masses
Oh,
feeding it energy as well.
yeah.
And so, other people's energy is pouring into it now, going, "Oh, this is bad," and the doll
Oh,
is feeding on that energy.
oh, my putting an egregore on Annabelle. Oh my goodness. I didn't even think about that.
That's
All of
one of the theories. Yeah,
all of that energy going into it.
yeah,
But, that egregore wouldn't have been there from the very beginning. It wouldn't have been done until she got famous, and somebody somewhere was like, "Ooh, I got an idea." Yeah. Wow. That thing's huge by now.
yeah, yeah. And that's one of the theories that we're working on now is that
Uh-huh.
this is what is. come into manifestation
Mm-hmm.
because of all the energy.
Right.
People are prescribing godlike characteristics to Annabelle, talking about Annabelle is responsible for burning down buildings, and
Oh my goodness.
creating tornadoes, and just ravaging entire neighborhoods and all kinds of things. So they're really attributing an almost godlike energy to this doll. And I
Hmm.
think that is where a lot of people are kind of going, um, yeah, where do we stop here? You know,
Right.
and how do you stop this momentum?
Right.
Because it's very dangerous. I mean, the things that
Mm.
you, and then of course you have people like Matt Rife who's popping in, going, "Hey, I just bought the Warren house, and this is the most important purchase in the history of paranormal, and this is a big deal because, so they're really driving that energy forward in that sense. You see what I'm saying?
My question about Matt is, did he just buy it because it's famous and quirky, or did he buy it because he seriously believes and understands? I You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Because
So,
if he bought it and he's not taking things seriously, he might be in some trouble
right, right.
soon,
Well, so what he's telling people is that he bought it, first of all, because it is the Warrens' house,
Mhm.
and he feels like it's an important part, excuse me, of paranormal history. So it's
Mm.
a big deal for him. But he also supposedly bought it because of the impact, the importance, of the paranormal,
Mhm.
and his, I guess, his desire to interact with the paranormal is it.
Oh.
So he's going at it as if from the direction of, you know, I believe in the paranormal. I want people to go in. I want people to investigate. I
Mhm.
want people to, see what they can find,
Mhm.
in this house, because
Mhm.
he feels like there's some value to doing, this thing. Um, so
Well, I mean, there is value, you know? I mean, it to me, paranormal investigation is a science, basically, and I've learned that it's just it's it's just basically a science that we haven't quite figured out how everything works. We have a pretty good idea, but maybe we haven't yet developed the tools to measure everything yet. And, it's a science in development. Let's put it that way. Um, so it is important. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe he's gonna do right by it.
I
Hope,
know, right? Well,
hope.
because so the the deal is that he bought the property and is contracted for 5 years as the caretaker of all the objects in the museum.
Hmm.
So him and his partner now are the rightful caretakers of Annabelle and the other objects in there for the
Mhm.
next 5 years. One of
Mm.
my questions is after that 5 year period, then what? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, when you tell me who bought that house, I was just kind of like, ugh. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I can't judge. You know, maybe he knows a lot. Maybe he's like a closet, paranormal investigator geek, and we just don't know.
That's
Maybe.
kind of what he seems to be trying to pass himself off as.
Yeah.
Denise, one of my moderators, asked, "What about Robert the doll?"
Robert the doll. Uh, somebody else had asked me. I haven't actually looked into him yet, but somebody did ask me, and I did. I went so far as I kind of Googled it, and it's kind of a creepy looking doll. Um, but but I haven't actually done anything with him, so
Yeah,
maybe I'll check him out in the next
yeah.
week.
This is one of those objects that I kind of go. I'm going to put that on my bucket list for things to research.
And
Moving
then
along very quickly because it's just, like you said, he's a little creepy. I mean,
a very creepy looking doll. It's a very old doll, isn't it?
Eric,
From I don't know, from like the first part of, the last century or something. About
yeah,
100
he's
years old.
pretty up
Yeah.
there. And so I don't know. I just get the feeling that avoidance is a really good thing with this. Um, but it's incredibly creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so, there are certain things in the world of the paranormal. If you're a paranormal investigator, like going with our gut feeling
Mhm.
is usually never a bad thing. And I feel like a lot of us fall into that category of
Mhm.
going what we feel. Is that how you pretty much operate most of the time? This kind of
Yeah, I am definitely, an energy reader, which yeah, an energy reader is nothing more than just, an extremely empathic person, somebody who feels, right? Feels the environment, feels other people. And so I do, and a lot of people, they pass that off as being, "Oh, it's my gut instinct." No, you're actually you're actually reading the energy of the environment or of people around you. And, so, yeah, I'll walk into a place even when I was a child, it was funny because my mother was kind of spiritual, and we would walk into places, and I would uh, immediately not feel good. I'd be nauseous or I'd be like kind of, oh, I don't feel good. And I'm a child. I should feel great, right? I'm a little kid. And she knew as soon as I started feeling that way, she's like, oh, we got to go. And there was a house that my parents were going to buy. And that happened. I walked in and I got nauseous and I just had just this weird head feeling and stuff. And mom was like, "Yeah, we're not gonna buy this place." It was almost like she was using me as a as a radar or something. But yeah, even today, when I walk in places, hospitals a lot of times, um, especially certain we have a hospital here that's very, very old. And so, the older the hospital, the more suffering, the more energy, the more, you know, negative energy that's imprinted into it. And every time I walk in that place, I just, I get nauseous so bad.
I have definitely had my experiences with that feeling. It's just this overwhelming ick, I call it. It just feels icky.
Hmm.
And just when you walk into that, there's definitely this desire to want to run quickly.
Right.
I think um, a lot of times, especially like when you deal with children who are experiencing these things, I think by nature we just want to go just walk it off. And of course that's not what's going to happen. And a lot of times you find people that you know, they want to have a full blown confrontation with a child, having a meltdown, going, no, no, and when that happens, you were literally forced to succumb to the desire of a child.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way to walk away from that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not necessarily a bad thing. It can be very beneficial and very helpful in a lot of ways. Because if you continue to press in, you may wind up with something on the bottom of your shoe you really don't want there.
Right.
So, and let me, because I know the last time you were on, you showed me a video clip, and I think I shared it with the audience of a uh,
Oh, set of scales.
the scales.
I actually I actually have them right here. The same set.
Oh wow, yeah,
I keep them very close by. Um, this is kind of one of my ghost doorbells. When I see it moving, I know I have somebody close. So,
right. And now the significance of that, and talking about the child energy, is you. A lot of times you've said that there are times when the children really are attracted to that,
mhm,
and just full on, just go for
yes.
the full blown. We're going to play with this thing now game,
Yeah,
and they get it going really well. The video you showed me was going back and forth.
it was yeah, that was a very cool video because it was there was a music box playing in the background.
Mhm.
I don't even know why I turned the music box on. I just thought, "Oh, they're kids, they'll like this," and they're moving it in time to the music box. And I thought, "Wow, that's very cool."
That was extremely cool.
But, a lot of times this is interesting. Um, every parent out there, who has had a kid since we have these light up toys, these music playing toys, electronic toys, has experienced those toys going off randomly for no reason. And I had toys. My son, I have an 8-year-old child, and 5 years ago when he was still playing with those toys would go off randomly at random 3 o'clock in the morning. The one of his toys would just boo start and it was so funny too because I said something about it to somebody and they said, "Oh, that just means the batteries are dying." Really? If the batteries are dying, why would the thing start playing? I mean, that makes no sense at all. But that's what people tell themselves to feel better, because in their heart of hearts, they know that it's something else.
Yes.
But yeah, I actually I had a lot of, because whether or not a place is haunted has more to do with when than where. Okay. I don't care if your place was built last week. You will occasionally have a ghost in your house. But if they don't see anything interesting, they're not going to hang out. They're just stopping in and going, "Oh, okay." And then they move on, right? Well, if you have toys laying around everywhere and a child ghost comes, they're going to stick around. And I had this brother sister combo come in, stop by, and they hung out for a while. And my son, I told him to go to bed, and I was in the other room folding clothes. And about 30 minutes later, I hear this dun 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 across my floor. And I'm like, "Oh, I told him to go to bed." And I get up and I walk in the other room. He is sound asleep. I was like, "Oh, okay." So I, grab my equipment and I'm do 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 and I'm following them and I hear this giggle. I could hear a hee 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 hee, a giggle, and it was a brother sister that died in the same incident, and they had just all this time they just been roaming the earth, having a blast, you know, exploring. And when they realized that I could see or that I could perceive them, they ran and hid
Oh,
like
gee.
they were in trouble.
Oh,
I was like, no, it's okay.
wow.
Anyway,
So,
that
and this is, this is kind of our lives. If you think about it, I mean, literally, this is what our world is about a lot of times for those of us who do investigation, who, engage with the paranormal. So as we're starting to round up to the top of the hour, uh, first of all, I want to thank you again for coming on. You are always one of the people that when I bring on to the show, you bring such a fresh energy to the topics that we talk about, and there's so many things that we could talk about that could get us in so much trouble these days, but you bring a very fresh new look to things. I really appreciate that.
thanks.
As we're closing out the night, though, I would like for you to give us a little insight, some words of wisdom for to leave with us tonight concerning the paranormal and the things that we may come in contact with, if you will, along the way.
The just like life is what you make of it. That kind of goes for paranormal stuff too. Um, it, the spirit world it's not scary. I mean, it's not scary to me anyway. There's when I was growing up, yeah, I was scared of ghosts, just like, most kids. And then when I grew up and I realized that they're just people, you know, suddenly nothing's scary to me anymore, you know, and people get freaked out when they see an object move or a light flicker or something. And it's like, no, it's okay. They're just letting you know they're there, you know? So just don't be scared. Keep a positive mindset, because if you're scared, if you're expecting to see something scary, then you will, you know. So
And the big thing to remember too, and this is so important, is to remember that like you said, ghosts were at one time someone's someone,
right.
and I think that's very important uh, wisdom to pass on to people.
Thanks for watching, Tom.
I really, really appreciate you coming on tonight. It's been a really fun experience, and I really want to get you. Um, I want to get you to continue to come on from time to time to talk with us about some of the stuff, some of the big topics, and some of the not so massive topics that really bring about. Meaning and value in the paranormal community. So I'm going to go on and round this off and close this out for the night. If you will hang on for a moment, though, I will be right back with you.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, guys. I got to tell you, I really, really appreciate Tanya so much. She brings so much energy, good energy, into some very hard topics sometimes. And when we talk about the things that we're experiencing in the paranormal, especially some of the things we're experiencing, and it is very hard. It's very hard information to process sometimes. Uh, but it's always good news when we have those in the community who can bring light and positivity into the things that are hard. The information that we have to digest sometimes it just don't feel right to us. Again, I want you guys, if you made it this far, drop me a line, give me some feedback on what you thought about tonight's show. If we touched on anything that really resonated with you, let us hear about it. And may your journey always be magical.
I've waited for so long to see when you come back to me. Through the wars and battles that were lost, we're born again, it's you and me. The rest is history. Past lives. Past lives. Did we dance together on different floors in 1500 or 1504? We must have been lovers. We must have been something in our past lives.